Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to show you some of the tools an interior design student needs, and most of these tools you'll keep on using once you've become an interior designer. So all the tools I'm going to show you were specific to my course. Other courses vary a little bit, but it's more or less the same. I'm going to get started with the big items first. You'll need an A3 Sketchpad. It doesn't really matter what quality it is as long as it's A3. So I got the cheapest one on Amazon. I actually haven't really ended up using this a lot because we have A3 paper at my uni and I do all my drawings on tracing paper, so you need an A3 tracing pad as well. Usually I use the tracing paper at my uni. I do most of my drawings on here, and then what I actually do is I photocopy them onto normal paper, and the reason why I do that is in case I want to add anything, I can just go on top of the tracing paper and add more detail to the drawing or erase something. If I would do my drawings just on normal A3 sketch pad, I wouldn't really be able to put a drawing underneath and trace over it. Then the next thing is this. This is a mat where you can cut in and it sort of heals itself. You'll need this in order to do models, and I've got this in an A3 size, but you can also get it in bigger sizes. You can see it's really grubby because I use my glue on here as well, so it's a really good surface to do anything on really. Unis will probably have this as well, but it's always good to have your own one because you won't want to be going into uni every time you need to use it. Then moving on to some of the things that you need to put your work in. For my course I need an A4 folio. They just come with these plastic pockets. Some of the stuff that I need to present is in A4, but most of the stuff is in A3. So I also have an A3 folder that looks exactly the same. You can also use something like this where you can put any amount of these pockets in. For my course I basically had to get 4 of the A4 presentation folders and 4 of the A3 presentation folders because we had 4 projects throughout the year and my uni kept the work after I handed it in, so every time I did a new project I needed to get a new folder, but they might do that a little bit differently at other universities. And then I've got 4 of these A4 folders, and that's because I have 4 modules, but you can choose whatever you like to put your lecture notes in. So now moving on to some of the actual equipment that you will need. The first thing is this ruler, and you can set it to an angle of 45 degrees up onto an angle of 90 degrees. You just line this bit up and then you can draw a line going up like this. And let's say you would want to draw an angle at 30 degrees, so you would line this up again and then you could draw a line here and you would have a 30-degree angle. And with this ruler it is really important to get one that you can set to 45 and to 30 degrees because those are really the degrees that you will need to use in order to do isometric and axonometric drawings. Another ruler that you will use is a scale ruler. Probably the most used scales are 1:50, 1:25, 1:20 and 1:10, but most of the time you won't find a ruler that has all of these scales on one ruler, so you might have to get 2 scale rulers. Or what I do is I only have 1:50 and 1:20 on here, and if I would need 1:25 I would just double up 1:50. So for 3 meters I would just use 6 meters on 1:50. So then the next ruler you will need is a metal ruler, and the reason why you need a metal ruler is in order to cut cardboard to make models you need a scalpel or an X-Acto knife in order to cut cardboard. So when you want to do a model you use this mat and then you put your metal ruler on there and then you can just cut along the cardboard with the X-Acto knife, and that is the reason why you need a metal ruler, so that the X-Acto knife doesn't cut away some of the ruler and that you can still cut in a straight line. You'll need some really strong glue. The Yoo-hoo glue is really just the best to do models. And then moving on to the last ruler that I have that is also quite useful but not necessary. It is this ruler, and the reason why I like it is because it has a 90-degree angle. So what I do is I just line it up with a line that I've drawn and then I can draw a 90-degree angle from there, and I find this really useful in order to make sure that all my lines are straight. Next I've got another ruler. What a surprise. I promise this is the last one. This one is to draw door swings on floor plans. Now moving on to something that is technically also a ruler, so I'm sorry. This is a measuring tape, and I made sure that it's quite long. So this one is 8 meters, but I'm sure 5 meters or something would be fine as well. And it has centimeters and inches on here. It's really important that you make sure it has centimeters on there, because in interior design and in architecture you'll always work with millimeters. Now moving on to all the pens that you will need. I've got a couple of these fine liners, and it's always good to have a lot of them, but the most important thing is that you have a very thick pen, a medium pen, and a very thin pen. So a very thin pen would be a 0.1 pen or a 0.05 pen. A medium pen is usually a 0.3 or a 0.4, and a thick pen is usually a 0.8. So those are the three most important pens. Then it is also important that you have a pencil. And interior design and architecture schools will usually tell you to get one where you can change the lead, and the reason for that is because they are quite thin and they are always sharp and draw a very precise line. And now moving on to pens that are used to render. So you would usually use an alcohol based marker in order to render drawings. And the best alcohol-based markers are Copic markers. So these are the Copic markers I have, and because they are really expensive I don't have a lot, so what I actually use most is grey tones, so that's why I got the Copic markers in grey. And then I have a lot more grey tone markers in here, and then I have a lot of colourful markers. I actually managed to get my markers for really cheap. These markers, for example, are from Tiger, and they are £2 for 3, which is really cheap for these markers. And then the last item I'm going to show you are these colouring pens. What I use these for is to bring in some detail into my rendered drawings. I forgot one more thing, and it is this Tipex pen. I use this as an eraser for when I have done any mistakes with this pen. So those were all the tools that an interior design student needs. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. I will leave some links down in the description box to some of those items that I got, because I got them for quite cheap. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon with another video. Goodbye!